So I hope you met others on the panel.
Yes.
Dr. Sampath and then Dr. MP Gautam from Forensic Science, Professor of Forensic Science. Then our registrar is here, Dr. Arvind Singh. And of course, people from food and nutrition, your area. We came to know a lot about your research. And of course, you are a well-known person. Yes?
Honorable Vice Chancellor.
Good morning, our Vice Chancellor.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Has Dr. Mohan joined?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So, welcome, Dr. Mohan.
Thank you, sir.
So, should we start the program?
Sure. Yes, sir.
Okay, please go ahead.
Thank you, sir. A very good morning to everyone and a warm welcome in the National Nutrition Month 2023 inaugural celebration. Exercise is king, nutrition is queen. Put them together, you have got the kingdom, quoted by Jack LaLanne. At the onset of this program, I would like to wish Happy National Nutrition Month 2023 to everyone. Though we are talking about nutrition every day, every minute, but this is the most awaited celebration which we all are waiting to celebrate. Every year, from September 1st to September 30th, National Nutrition Month is commemorated to raise awareness of the value of nutrition for human health and well-being. National Nutrition Month holds immense significance as it sheds light on the role of nutrition in maintaining good health and preventing various diseases. It acts as a platform to educate individuals about the right balance of nutrients which their body needs and the potential risk associated with poor dietary choices. The importance of National Nutrition Month cannot be overstated. It serves as a reminder to prioritize health and make informed food choices. In a world where fast food and unhealthy eating habits are prevalent, this month serves as a wake-up call to adopt a more conscious and mindful approach towards eating. I would like to share that Sri Vaishnav Institute of Home Science, Food and Nutrition, since its functional inception year 2020, celebrating National Nutrition Month every year by conducting series of lectures by national and international experts in the field of nutrition from UNICEF, National Institute of Nutrition, FSSAI, distinguished professors at leading University of India for making people aware and nutritionally sensitive. These series of lectures were participated not only from Pan-India, but also internationally with more than 550 registration. This year as well, we have planned several events, including a quiz competition, in extempo performances, a poster competition, a slogan competition, and many more. With this, I, Dr. Shweta Keswani, Assistant Professor, Sri Vaishnav Institute of Home Science, Food and Nutrition, Sri Vaishnav Vidyapeeth Vishwavidyalaya, Indore, cordially welcome today's chief guest and keynote speaker, Dr. Vishwanathan Mohan, awarded Padma Shri by Government of India, an Indian diabetologist, Chief of Diabetology at Dr. Mohan's Diabetes Specialty Center, Chennai. Dr. Upinder Dhar, Honorable Vice Chancellor, Sri Vaishnav Vidyapeeth Vishwavidyalaya, Indore. Dr. Santosh Dhar, Rector and Dean, Faculty of Doctoral Studies and Research, Sri Vaishnav Vidyapeeth Vishwavidyalaya, Indore. All honored dignitaries, directors, head of institutes, head of department, coordinators, faculty members, technical team, and participants of National Nutrition Month 2023. Om Shubham Karoti Kalyanam Arogyam Dhan Sampada Shatru Buddhi Vinashaya Deepa Jyotin Namastute. Every work remains unmoved and unconvinced without the blessing of Almighty. To make this morning a blessed one, may I now request the technical team to invoke Goddess Saraswati by virtual kindling the lamp of knowledge and wisdom and play Saraswati Vandana. technical team.
कुन्देन्दुतुषारहारधवला या शुभ्रवस्त्रावृता या वीणावरदण्डमण्डितकरा या श्वेतपद्मासना या ब्रह्माच्युतशङ्करप्रभृतिभिः देवैः सदा वन्दिता सा मां पातु सरस्वती भगवती निःशेषजाड्यापहा.
Thank you so much, technical team. Now, I would like to request Dr. Upinder Dhar, Honorable Vice Chancellor, Shri Vaishnav Vidyapeeth Vishwavidyalaya, Indore, for the floral welcome of our today's chief guest, Dr. Vishwanathan Mohan, awarded Padma Shri by Government of India, Indian diabetologist, Chief of Diabetology at Dr. Mohan's Diabetes Specialty Center, Chennai. Thank you so much, Honorable Vice Chancellor, sir, and heartiest welcome, Dr. V. Mohan, sir. Some are famous for their skills and talents, while others are distinguished by their courage or profound impact on society. But one thing many of the world's most successful people have in common is their ability to inspire others. And this is absolutely correct in the context of our respected Dr. Upinder Dhar, Honorable Vice Chancellor, Shri Vaishnav Vidyapeeth Vishwavidyalaya, Indore. Sir, I cordially invite you to provide the welcome remark and information regarding National Nutrition Month 2023. Welcome, sir, and over to you, sir.
Good morning to all of you who have joined this program. At the outset, I would like to welcome Dr. Mohan on this very special occasion. As we know, the National Nutrition Week is a global healthcare event focused on nutrition. In India, it is observed in the first week of September every year since 1982. During this week, various local and global communities gather around to advocate the importance of nutrition through various events and mediums. A strong correlation is seen between a country's economic prosperity and the level of food production, as well as the extent of elimination of nutritional gaps. Nevertheless, it was discovered that there are various developed and developing countries in which one of the dominant issues is the prevalence of undernutrition. Similarly, the Indian economy, which persists as one of the emerging markets, demonstrated the extent of nutrition not only in the poor, but also amongst all socio-economic groups. Steps are being taken to curb the nutritional gaps with serious crop diversification. If we go back in the history, it was in 1973 that the American Diabetes Association, ADA, launched the first National Nutrition Week campaign. The event was pushed into the public with radio service announcements, TV countdowns, news releases, and even a presidential proclamation. All the commercials and reminders featured the theme, invest in yourself by nutrition. ADA advocated its position as an authority in nutrition along with the importance of good nutrition. While India has fertile lands, famines from the British era impoverished the nation. India has experienced decades of remarkable shifts to counter it. During the independence era, due to the prevalence of various major nutritional diseases, such as Kerato, Malaysia, beriberi, pellagra, etc., the Green Revolution restructured farming, dramatically decreasing the extent of malnutrition. With the worldwide growing popularity of National Nutrition Week, India too planned its own local events and launched National Nutrition Week in 1982, as I have already mentioned, to seize the growing nutritional gaps. In our university also, we have been organizing this week every year, this first week of September, with a focus on generating awareness amongst all, particularly students, about what to do and what not to do, what to take, what not to take, what is nutrition and what is malnutrition. So differentiation between the two. The intention has been so far in this week to educate people and make them aware. I'm happy that this year our Institute of Home Science has decided to make it 1 month. Instead of 1 week program, it will be 1 month program, so that we can reach more people, not restricting ourselves to the campus only, but we can, our volunteers, our trained students, and of course faculty can go to the nearby communities and educate them about the importance of nutritious food. As we know, current year is the International Year of Millets. The Green Revolution drove off famine and malnutrition with extensive cultivation of rice and wheat. The choice of Indian farmers to utilize high-yielding varieties of wheat, cereal, and rice concomitantly with heavy chemical fertilizers resulted in the fast filling up stomachs and granaries. While the Green Revolution pressed cereal-centric agricultural yield and took care of malnutrition in the nation, the intensified cultivation rapidly depleted soil fertility, robbing off the essential micronutrients and compromising the nutritional quality. This problem can be controlled by crop diversification. By growing and consuming various types of crops, any disease occurring with malnutrition can be thwarted. The variety in nutrition brought by diversity in food is enabled only by serious crop diversification. Taking consideration into account the ever-growing global population and the promise of millets as a nutritious and affordable option, the Food and Agriculture Organization, FAO, of the United Nations accepted India's proposal and announced this year, that is 2023, as the International Year of Millets. The various cereals millet family encompass are: 1, pearl millet, that is high in fiber and essential amino acids. Prosco millet, a gluten-free, nutrition-rich in minerals, dietary fiber, polyphenols, and vitamins. Foxtail millet, it could improve glycemic control in type 2 diabetics. Barnyard millet has higher amounts of proteins, fibers, and most micronutrients than other major cereals. Kodo millet has higher polyphenol content and can be used to counter obesity. Finger millet has higher polyphenol content and can be used to counter, again, the obesity. Little millet, a rich source of sulfur-containing amino acids. Sorghum millet, high in riboflavin, thiamine, niacin, and folic acid vitamins. And lastly, teff millet, which is rich in vitamin E and vitamin B. Few tips for healthy eating, if we take, are that given we can think of a healthy diet comprising more or less the exact amounts of calories after understanding the average consumption of calories an individual consumes. With extra calorific food matching more than the needs of the body, it will result in weight gain with fat accumulation. A balanced diet is a must, as we know. Higher fiber, starchy carbohydrates in the diet. At least 1/3 of the food must be of starchy carbohydrates, such as potatoes, bread, rice, cereals, etc. Today, we have gathered to listen to the expert like Dr. Mohan. And I'm sure that this whole month, which we are celebrating as Nutrition Month, will be very beneficial. And we'll be able to generate awareness, not only amongst the students and faculty, but also in the nearby community, so that they can choose the right kind of food. So it's a very happy occasion that we are starting this month with the blessings of Dr. Mohan. And I'm very happy to welcome him once again to this program. And all of us are waiting for his very valuable words. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir, for your warm welcome and insightful thoughts for National Nutrition Month 2023 and many more. Without further ado, I would like to request Dr. Uttam Sharma, sir, Coordinator, Shri Vaishnav Institute of Home Science, Food and Nutrition, to present citation to Dr. V. Mohan, sir, our today's chief guest and national pride. Over to you, Dr. Uttam Sharma, sir.
Well, it is a matter of pride privilege for me to read the citation of Padma Shri Dr. Vishwanathan Mohan. I quote, Dr. Vishwanathan Mohan is an Indian diabetologist. He is the chairman and chief of diabetology at Dr. Mohan's diabetes specialist. Additionally, he serves as both the president and the director of Chennai-based Madras Diabetes Research Foundation and ICMR Center for Advanced Research on Diabetes. Dr. Mohan has been providing care to diabetes patients all throughout the nation. He has also educated hundreds of diabetologists in India and other developing nations. In recognition of his achievement in the field of diabetology, the President of India awarded him the 4th highest civilian award, the Padma Shri, in 2012. According to Stanford University Global Ranking, he is amongst the top 2% of scientists in the world and the top scientist in India in the field of endocrinology and metabolism, as well as he is the top 0.1% of the researcher in type 2 diabetes. Dr. Mohan has authored works on social and spiritual topics in addition to technical ones. He has published over 1,609 papers, including over 1,036 original research articles in peer-reviewed journals, 376 invited reviews and editorial, and 186 chapters in textbooks on diabetes and internal medicine published in India and abroad. His research work has an H index of 150 and I-10 index of 923. And he has attracted over 1,88,500 citations to his credit. Dr. Vishwanathan Mohan established a rural diabetology service with a fully equipped mobile diabetes van and satellite connection with the initial support of World Diabetes Foundation, WDF Denmark, and the Indian Space Research Organization, ISRO, along with National Agro Foundation. He has started several training courses for diabetes in collaboration with the Public Health Foundation of India. Dr. Mohan is a recipient of several awards like American College of Physicians, ACP Indian Chapter in 2023. Harold Ripkin Distinguished International Service in the Cause of Diabetes Award for the American Diabetes Association in 2018. Chakra Award by Rotary Club in 2017. Dr. B.C. Rai Award in the Medical Council by the Medical Council of India. Best Diabetologist in India by Z Group of Television in 2013. Lifetime Achievement Award for Excellence in Diabetic Careers in South Asia Community by South Asian Health Foundation, United Kingdom. Science Hero India Today Award in 2011. He was recognized as the top scientist from Tamil Nadu state in India, Best Diabetologist in India, Pioneer in Healthcare Award 2013 awarded by Times of India in association with Ministry of Health and Family Welfare. Best Doctor in Medicine, Jesuit Jubilee Commemoration, Loyola College, Chennai, and many more to his credit. Shri Vaishno Vidyapit Vishwavidyalaya Indore is privileged to present this citation to Padma Shri Dr. Vishwanathan Mohan for being chief guest and keynote speaker during National Nutrition Month on 1st September 2023, unquote.
Thank you so much, sir. As everyone is aware, India is the country with the highest prevalence of diabetes worldwide. And as per the Indian Council of Medical Research published study in 2023 stated that the prevalence of diabetes is 10.1 crores. According to World Health Organization, diabetes is a growing challenge in India with estimated 8.7% diabetic population in the age group of 20 and 70 years. The rising prevalence of diabetes and other non-communicable diseases is driven by a combination of factors: rapid urbanization, sedentary lifestyle, unhealthy diets, tobacco use, and increasing life expectancy. There is need to focus and grab global attention on urgent actions needed to keep human and the planet healthy and foster a movement to create societies focused on well-being. This is a very fortunate day when eminent personality and our nation pride, who have been awarded with the 4th highest civilian award, the Padma Shri in 2012 by Government of India, Dr. V. Mohan sir is with us. He will be delivering session on the contribution of unhealthy diet to India's diabetes epidemic and possible solution. I would like to request respected sir, kindly enlighten us with your valuable and experiential learning. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Shweta. Let me share my screen. Is it seen?
Yes, sir. Now it is.
Yeah, it can be seen.
You're able to see it now?
Yeah.
So, very good afternoon to all of you. I would like to thank the Honorable Vice Chancellor, the Sri Vaishnav Vidyapith Vishwa Vidyalaya, Indore, Dr. Upinder Dar, Dr. Santosh Dar, Rector and Dean, Dr. Professor Uttam Sharma, all the other faculty, and of course, a big thank you to Dr. Shweta Keshwani, who has been coordinating this and writing to me so many times to make this program happen. First of all, a very happy Nutrition Week to National Nutrition Week and month to all of you. The Vice Chancellor has given a very illuminating overview of the importance of nutrition, and Dr. Shweta Keshwani has also referred to this. So I will be talking something about the other side of the coin. We talked a little bit about undernutrition, but the undernutrition in India has been replaced by overnutrition and with its problems. And that's going to be basically the focus of my presentation today, and how much of the diabetes epidemic in India is due to the dietary or nutritional aspects, and what are the possible solutions as we go forward. I have no conflict of interest. Most of these studies are funded by ICMR and other Indian agencies. Of course, some government international funding has also been there for some of our fundings. And as I will show you, we have collaborations with very distinguished groups at Harvard, McMaster University, Emory University, and others, which have led to a lot of our work. So let me start with this particular slide. I had the good fortune to join my late father, Professor M. Vishwanathan, who was considered as the father of diabetology in India, in the year 1972. I was only a first-year medical student at that time. And the reason I had to join him was because it was a slightly historic kind of a moment in his life when he was leaving the government medical college, where he set up the first diabetic clinic in India, in Chennai at the Stanley Medical College. And he was now transitioning, he had left that position, and he was now transitioning into private practice. And of course, having been bitten by the research bug, he wanted to continue some academic work in the private sector, which in 1972 was unheard of. There was no private institution doing research. So he called me as the eldest son and said, why don't you join me? We'll do some research work together and you can specialize in diabetes. And that's how I joined him. And for those of you who have read my autobiography, it's all described in detail there. But what happened was that over the years, from 1972, when Professor M.M.S. Ahuja from All India Institute published the first ICMR multi-center study, and I want to tell you what's the difference between this study and the one I'm going to present shortly. That time, multi-center meant 6 cities in India, which is big. 50 years ago to do that was very big. 6 cities in India and 6 villages near those 6 cities. So there was an urban and rural, but 6 villages and 6 cities was what was studied. And that is a very big study at that time. In fact, one of the biggest over the years also. So there in 1972, the prevalence of diabetes was 2% in urban areas. Urban means this was metropolitan cities. He didn't study the smaller towns at that time. And in rural areas, it was more like 1%. 1.5 was more than the village in Gujarat, but otherwise it was near 1%. So we can roughly take it as 2 and 1%. Over the years, you can see this is a series of studies over the years. It kept increasing. 2 became 4, 5, 11, 12, 13, 14, 20. 2025 and 2015, we published a big study funded by the NIH in the US with Dr. Nikhil Tandon from All India Institute, who's a big collaborator of mine, and from MDRF in Chennai. And at that time in Chennai and Delhi, it's over 20%, 22% of adults. Now, these are people who are about 20 years of age. You're not talking people who are over 40, 50, 60 years of age. You're talking about adults above 20 years. They just finished their teens. And everyone above that we survey in the city, and a quarter of them having diabetes. So from 2% to 25% is a very big jump in about 40, 45 years time. And the rural areas also, you can see a similar jump from 1% reaching about 16%. Now, I mentioned my father, and I mentioned I'm the second generation. Now, what happened was the third generation. So my daughter joined me, again when she was in medical college, when she entered medical college, she joined me. And she kept criticizing these studies, saying, what are you doing? You're just studying some few cities here and there. Chennai, 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 Delhi, Delhi keeps coming. And you're not studying the whole country. And although this says Kerala, it is not at all Kerala. It's just a small part, only Ernakulam, small portion was studied. So what she was saying was, how can you say that this is Chennai? How can you say this is India? When you're just studying, somebody is speaking. Switch off the mic.
Manisha madam, camera band kariye. Or mic be.
Mute everyone else. Okay.
Yes, sir.
So what is happening is that there's a huge increase, but we're not sure there's only in the metros this is happening. So what she came to me and said was, let's do a pan-India study and study India completely. I thought she was totally crazy and didn't want her to do that. But then Dr. N.K. Ganguly, who was the Director General of ICMR, at that time, he liked the idea. And he said, I think your daughter is right. We need a pan-Indian study. After all, after Professor Ahuja, nobody has done that. So that is how the INDIAB study, which Dr. Shweta just mentioned, it's called as the ICMR India Diabetes Study, or the INDIAB study. Now, in the INDIAB study, completely funded by ICMR, little bit from the Department of Health Research, Ministry of Health, but almost 95% funded by ICMR. We plan to study the complete India, the whole of India, every state in the country, using a representative sample of the whole country. Now you can imagine, to sample 1.44 billion people, how much time it will take. And depending on the funding coming in, that to completely government funded study. It took us 15 years, believe it or not, to complete the whole study. And finally, we have now completed the whole of the country. We are now studying some of these islands, Andaman, Nicobar, we are entered there. And of course, at Kashmir got left out because by the time it got divided. So we are now doing Jammu, Kashmir as we speak, that is going on. But the rest of the country is completed. Now, this paper was published on June 7th, 2023. And the morning when it was published, actually 7th British time, and it was 8th morning India time when it got published. By the time it got published, it was like a bombshell burst on the research scheme, because we started getting calls from Prime Minister's office and Health Minister's office and everyone. What is happening? What's happening in India? BBC started calling us. Everybody started calling. No study of mine in the last 50 years has produced as much attention as this. 288 press people called us. This is one of the studies which has got the maximum publicity was this particular study. Why? Because the whole of India has been studied. And my daughter was right. This is my daughter, Anjana. She was right, because once you study a whole country like that, no country had ever studied a whole country. If they do a study in China, it will be here, there, here, there. If they do in US, it will be here, there, there. Not a complete study of the whole state. So from this, we got these numbers. 101 million people with diabetes in India, 136 million with pre-diabetes, stage before diabetes. I mean, these people can also convert into diabetes. 315 million people with hypertension, 254 million with obesity, 351 million people with abdominal obesity, which means your waist going up, and 213 million people with cholesterol. So it is not just diabetes which is increasing, but the entire metabolic profile. And this is a proper representative study of the country. If you draw the sampling of INDIAB and take the census of India, it exactly fits one on top of the other. You can't get a better representative study. Now, I would just put it to you, for example, you just take abdominal obesity, 351 million people with obesity. If this was a number of a country, This will be the third largest country in the world because even US population is lower than this. So we have more people with diabetes in India than any country in Europe. There's no European country which has 100 million people. Okay. And we're talking about 100 million people in one country with diabetes itself. I'm just giving you this because you must understand the magnitude of the problem. There's 101 million people, you won't realize how big it is. If I tell you it's 4 times the size of Australia, then you'll probably, oh my God, 4 times the size of Australia, only diabetic people in India, with another 130 million converting to diabetes fast. So we do have, that's why it made so much of noise, So but it also gives you a window of opportunity, because why are you going to let these 136 million people convert to diabetes? Why not prevent the diabetes in them? And I'll briefly come to that as we go along. Now, more than the diabetes numbers, we are more worried about its complications. Diabetes is a disease, okay, take a tablet, you go for your walk, you try to reduce some calories or carbohydrate, and that is one part of the diabetes. What if it starts affecting the complications? Now, we do have data on urban rural prevalence of all the complications in India. We've got epidemiological data. Okay, if you just take kidney disease, I'm just illustrating kidney because coronary artery disease, okay, you have a bypass and then you're done. Okay, fine, you've got a new heart. Okay, retinopathy, you go and do some laser and you're fine. Neuropathy, you take some medicines and you're fine. But if you have kidney disease, and if that kidney disease is going to progress to end-stage renal disease, there are only 2 treatments. One is dialysis, which you will continue to do throughout your life, or you do a transplant and get a new kidney. Only these 2 are there for end-stage renal disease. No other form of treatment, no other system of medicine, no allopathic medicines, nothing will work once you reach that particular stage. Now, what are the numbers of people with kidney disease we have in India? This 25 million is based on the 100 million total people. We know that about 25% will have kidney disease. It doesn't mean that 25 million people have end-stage renal disease, but they have some renal disease. Now let's take another calculation. Let's say 1 in 5 of them, that's a very conservative estimate, go on to develop end-stage kidney disease. We're talking about 5 million people with end-stage kidney disease in India who need either a transplant or a transplantation. Either a dialysis, continuous dialysis or transplantation. Now, continuous dialysis, only 5% of people in India can afford. Many nephrologists have found that out. If you want to do a transplant, you need 5 million kidneys. You don't get 5,000 kidneys in a year. Where are you going to get 5 million kidneys? Okay. So this is a serious problem, but it is something which we can do something about. And therefore, the only thing we can do is to prevent it. We can prevent diabetes and prevent its complications. If we don't do this, we are in serious trouble. And it will only take another 5-10 years for us to reach that rate at which we are growing. And this is not meant to frighten you, but to tell you that something can be done, but must be done in India. We cannot wait for all the non-communicable diseases, all the communicable diseases to be wiped out before you start on the non-communicable disease agenda. You can't do that because this is progressing much faster. 60 to 70% of all deaths in India today are already due to non-communicable diseases. So we can't wait. The time to act is now. Okay. Now, is the epidemic due to genetic factors or environmental factors? Very often we think, oh, we as Indians have a gene and that's why it has moved. Let me ask you that second slide which I showed you, when my father's days, when it was 2% of diabetes, Professor Ahuja did that study, 2% of diabetes. And now 50 years later, 25% have got diabetes. I was alive in 76 and many of you would have been alive in 76 and 72 and now also you're alive. Did all our genes change? Suddenly in 50 years, all Indians went genetic manipulation, something happened? Nothing happened. What happened was exactly what Dr. Upinder Dar was talking about. See, we were having malnutrition, we were having undernutrition, people were so thin, they were starving, there was starvation deaths in some place. From there, suddenly green revolution comes, everything comes, you now become self-sufficient food. You can even export food to other countries. That has led, and then fast foods, and then in 1991, the economy opens up. Suddenly people have become more affluent, IT industry comes in, lots of changes, which are for the good. No doubt it's for the good. But the price that we pay is overnutrition. The price that we pay is wrong eating, junk food, and so on. So with that, I don't think it is genetic factors. Genes may play a small role, but what is actually driving the epidemic is the environmental factors, which is good for us. which means we can do something about it. But it's entirely genetic, it's a curse. We can't do anything about it. This genetic factor probably plays 10% or 20%. 80% is due to environmental factors, and that is what is shown here. If you look at what was happening in the 1960s or before, people worked in the field. They were carrying loads on their head. Today, what do we carry? Only a cell phone we carry on our head. We don't carry anything else. Okay. Children used to play like this. Even in my days, we used to go to the field to play cricket, football, this, that. We used to play all that. Today, what do? They're playing computer games. Nobody goes to play outside. We had frugal meals, which we ate like this, completely replaced by junk food like this. Why? Because our youngsters are working for US timing. They are youngsters, they're earning in dollars, but they're working the whole night. Why? Because they have to work according to US time now. Okay. They're paying dollars, they make a lot of money, but they are sitting in call centers and they're working US timing, eating all the junk food. At 2 a.m., do you get healthy food? You won't get. So you'll start buying all your Cokes and you'll start buying all your junk foods and all that. Now, this leads to excess carbohydrate intake. Whatever you take in our country is carbs, and I'll talk about that, leading to increased glycemic load, marked decrease in physical activity. First thing we do is we'll buy a scooter or we'll buy a car. So we are now using motorized transport, or walking has come down. We don't go by bus, we don't walk, no cycling now. Everything is now become motorized, and therefore your physical activity is going down. I'm not even entering for this talk urbanization. There's so much of pollution. We've got a lot of data now. Delhi, they have now declared as the most polluted city in the whole world. Okay, so we have so much of 2.5 PM emissions in the air that itself is producing diabetes, hypertension, cancers, all kinds of things it is producing. I'm not going to talk much about this. I'll talk more about diet because it's a nutrition month, and a little bit about physical activity. So let's talk about the excess carbs. Is there evidence that if you take excess carbohydrate, you'll get more diabetes? This is a paper we published in 2009 in British Journal of Nutrition. So we looked at in the Chennai population. Before we did INDIAB, we had huge Chennai-based studies, population-based studies representing the whole of Chennai. One of them is called CURES, Chennai Urban Rural Epidemiology Study. This is study number 59 from the CURES study. So where there we looked at the quartiles of the population, what they ate, and what is the prevalence of diabetes. Of course, a cross-sectional study, and I'll tell you about the longitudinal one. Now here is shown the glycemic load. This glycemic load in Chennai comes only from rice. Rice is the main thing that we eat. In the west and in the north, it may be wheat. And that was also referred to by our Vice Chancellor. So if you take those who are in the first quartile of the population consuming the glycemic load, about 200 grams of carbohydrate, and you take that as the odds ratio as 1 reference. By the time you move to the fourth quartile, the diabetes is not going up slightly, it is going up 4.25 times. Now, what does that mean? By the time you increase your carbohydrate from 200 grams to about 400 grams, just doubling the carbohydrate, your diabetes risk, if it is 8% here, it's 32% there. Okay? If it is 6% here, it's 24% there, not 7% or 8%. You may say, and that's not due to rice and glycemic load, it's due to obesity. Well, we have corrected. We have corrected for age, sex, body mass index, family history, cigarette smoking, everything you can, education, income, physical activity, everything has been corrected. And yet there's a clear correction. You may say it's a cross-sectional study. There are a lot of confounders in cross-section study. I'm not convinced by cross-section study. I'm also not convinced. Okay. Then you need a prospective study. In a prospective study, what you should do, you should have a population where they didn't have diabetes, and you measured everything there. And then for 10, 15, 20 years, you have to follow that same population and see who gets diabetes, and then correlate it back with what they ate 15, 20 years earlier. Is it possible? Well, nothing is impossible. You can do that. Now, before that, just to check the validity of that in the same study, with carbohydrate, it goes up. With glycemic index, it goes up. With glycemic load, it goes up. Now, what do you think will happen with fiber? We take a lot of fiber. Fiber is opposite of all this. It should go down, isn't it? We checked it and we found with fiber, it's going down. So this is face validity of the study, showing that what we are measuring is correct. And it's not some kind of a statistical artifact. But as I said, it still has a lot of difficulties when you do a cross-section study because it's not causal. To say it's causal, you need to do mechanical studies or you have to do a prospective study, longitudinal study. That is what we did. with what's called as the prospective urban rural epidemiological study, otherwise called as PURE study. Now, the PURE study actually started in India. It started in Bangalore and St. John's, very quickly moved to MDRF in Chennai, and then we had PGI Chandigarh, we had Trivandrum, and we had Jaipur. So 5 centers in India are involved. From India, we then went to China and went to Europe and went to Canada and went to Africa, and we went to every other country in the world has now been included. Today, this is not 21 countries now, we have 27 countries now in PURE, and the total sample size is 250,000 people who are being followed continuously for 15, 20 years. It's the largest epidemiological study ever done in the world. The master brain behind this is Salim Yusuf, who is from St. John's Medical College, a South Indian, who has amassed this massive cohort. And there's only one of the many, many cohorts that he has. PURE is just one of his. Okay. Now, my interest in this is that everything related to diabetes in PURE, I want to have a look at it. So I said, okay, we have this white rice theory. Why not we test it in a longitudinal study and see? And so Bhavdharani was my PhD student who later went to work with Salim Yusuf. So I told her, you take this up, and then you see with Mashid Negan's support. Let's see whether in the prospective study, we're able to show that rice is related to diabetes, to incident diabetes, new onset. Okay. Now, this is the rice consumption in the world. If you look at South Asia, it has the highest. South Asia includes India, Bangladesh, Pakistan, Nepal, and so on. So this has the highest intake of cooked white rice, whereas the Southeast Asia comes next. China has actually reduced its rice intake, and the other countries are very low. Okay, so if you see an association, it should be strongest in South Asia, isn't it? Now, here is the hazards ratio for developing new onset type 2 diabetes in various parts of the world. South Asia, the hazard ratio is 1.61. That means 61% higher risk of developing type 1 diabetes, highly significant statistically. In China, it was slightly more, but it was not statistically significant. Rest of the world, it was significant. Overall, it was significant. In China, it missed statistical significance because they have reduced the rice intake considerably last 5 to 10 years. So in South Asia, a very strong correlation between new onset diabetes and rice intake after correcting for everything else. We then asked another question. Okay, what if they did physical activity? Will it come down? It does come down from a 50% hazards ratio and physically inactive to only a 16%, and now the statistical significance is gone. Okay, so you can reduce your risk of diabetes even if you're taking rice or wheat by exercising, and that's a very good point which came out of this particular study. So we concluded that higher consumption of white rice associated with increased risk of incident diabetes, and the strongest association observed in South Asia and modest association in other places. Now, what about the rice itself? So we then started going deep into the rice. Now, if you look here, this is the brown rice, and that's a white rice. So we said we have brown rice, we have white rice. So let's measure the glycemic index of that. The glycemic index of white rice is nearly 80. Okay, if you take 100 as glucose, so it's almost 80. The brown rice is only 57. So it comes under the medium or the almost coming to the low GI category. Below 55 is low and above 70 is high. Well, we saw what happens if you just mill the rice, not too much polishing, but just mill. It is still quite high. So even minimal polishing of an Indian parboiled brown rice leads to increased glycemic index. So you should not mill it at all. You should use the old hand-pounded rice which we used to do in the old part. So now today, we are actually promoting this brown rice, and I'll come to millets in a minute. So if you take whole grain, it is much better. Now, what if you do studies? And here we had the the luxury of collaborating with the world's best nutrition team, Walt Willett and Professor Frank Hugh from Harvard, from the Harvard School of Public Health. This is the kind of mecca of nutrition in the whole world. So we collaborated with them, did a study where we substituted brown rice with white rice. And we said, what happens if you substitute brown rice with white rice? We did continuous glucose monitoring. So we put a small patch on the hand of people, asked them to, this is not in diabetic people, this is in non-diabetic people. We said, let's see if you eat white rice, what happens? If you eat brown rice, what happens? The red is the white rice. You can see that all the peaks which are occurring are due to the white rice. If you take brown rice, it is lower, it is blue, okay? And what is the black? The black is brown rice with some legumes also added. If you add pulses along with that, it further, see how much is coming down. you can actually bring it down. So message we got from this is brown rice is better. If you add some legumes, it is even better because the protein and fiber goes up. Now we are able to show that if you have metabolic syndrome, if you're a thin person, you have no metabolic syndrome, no family history, probably doesn't make too much of difference. You take white rice or brown rice. But if you're having a metabolic syndrome, you can see the reduction in HbA1c which occurs, the reduction in the HSCRP which occurs. Now, so far we talked about the quantity of carbohydrate. What about the quality of carbohydrate? Is all carbohydrate the same? Now there are bad carbs, which we know. Sweetened drinks, fruit juice, highly polished white rice, white bread, cookies, candy, potato chips, French fries. These are all bad carbs. And not only if you have diabetes, I think it's better for most people to avoid these. So what will you take as good carbs? Lots of vegetables, as much as you can eat, whole fruits, preferably the low GI ones, legumes, kidney beans, rajma, Bengal gram, green gram, black gram, mushroom, all of those. Nuts, and I'll come to nuts in a minute. Walnuts, almonds, hazelnuts, even groundnut, anything. Seeds, very good. Sunflower, chia, pumpkin seed. And if you're eating grain, take brown rice or quinoa or whole wheat or steel cut oats and so on. Now, what about millets? Now, mention was made about the International Year of the Millets. I have to talk about millets. Now, millets are very important in our country for many reasons. I'm not going to go into all of them, but millets take very little water. See, in India, the groundwater is going very low. So the more rice and wheat we cultivate, more water is going to be taken out and the groundwater is going to go down. If you change to millets, they are very efficient as far as water is concerned. And therefore, just for that one thing, using millets is very good. Plus, they're a storehouse of nutraceuticals and have many health benefits. This was already mentioned by the Vice Chancellor, the major millets as well as the minor millets. So I won't go into that. There are different types of millets, each having its own properties. Some of them are shown here. But don't forget that even the millets are carb-based. So they contain 60 to 70% carbohydrate. And some of them, of course, have more protein. And therefore, despite having carbohydrate, they're still rich in protein. They're very rich in dietary fiber. But this fiber is mainly insoluble fiber, not soluble fiber. Okay. We have done a number of studies on millets. In fact, we're a big center for studying millets. And we have been looking at different, what are in the market, what millets are available, what happens when you polish, what happens when you do glycemic index testing, and so on and so forth. I'll just show you 2 or 3 of them. If you look at the millets which are available in the South Indian market, in Chennai, for example, we looked at the GI of them. What is it? Are they very low as compared to rice? No, actually, some of them, if you make millet out of upma, the decorticated millet upma, the GI is actually very high. So they're not having much benefit. They may be having protein, they may be having a little more fiber, but they're polished. And once they are polished, they seem to lose the full benefit of the millet. If you look at the market, whatever are available here, out of the number of brands which are sold in the market, the majority are the polished variety. There are very few unpolished. What we need is the unpolished millets. So when you talk about millets, please mention unpolished millets in all your talks during this entire nutrition month. Otherwise, people will buy this high fiber, high glycemic index thing and think, oh, I'm eating very healthy thing. It's healthier, of course. But if you, as far as diabetic patients are concerned, not going to help you that much. Okay, just look at the stereo zoom microscope. This is done in our lab. This is how an unpolished millet should look like. And look at how the polished one look like, white, just like white rice it is looking like. Nobody has done this kind of research, so people don't know about it. When you polish, what happens? Your glycemic index will go up, the protein will go down, the fiber will start going down, and then it becomes just like white rice. And the glycemic load will also go up if it is polished millets. Now, we have been working on a lot of healthier millet products, and we have a whole division for making healthy products. So we have multi-millet porridge mix, muesli and pulses, biscuits which are made out of millets, sorghum pasta, and extruded snacks. We're making all this. We're trying to get people interested in this so they can buy this and take it to the market. Our job is to produce healthy things, do the testing, do the GI, and then leave it. We cannot do the marketing part of it. What about nuts? A few years ago, we got into research on nuts, and we're doing a lot of research on nuts. One, for example, on cashew nut. Now, everybody knows that almonds and walnuts are good. everybody feels that cashew nuts are bad because they contain little saturated fat. We also thought that it's going to be very bad. But when we did the study, and this is a very important study published in Journal of Nutrition, we showed that no effect on the bad cholesterol, LDL cholesterol. On the other hand, it increased the HDL cholesterol or the good cholesterol, and it reduced the blood pressure. As I'll show you here, you can see the blood pressure reduction of almost 5 millimeters of mercury and a small diastolic blood pressure and an increase in HDL cholesterol. So even cashew, it had no effect on HbA1c, no effect on LDL, no effect on weight. Of course, you must take the right quantity, a handful, a fistful of nuts. And secondly, you should not add ghee to it and oil to it and fry it and all that. You should take raw. If you take raw, it's very good. More recently, we've been working on almonds, and this has just been published. We've worked on almost all the nuts. Pistachio is just getting over. We are now working on groundnuts. So we have again worked on almonds, and we found similar benefits just published in Frontiers of Nutrition, where we showed that it increases the HDL cholesterol and it lowers serum cholesterol. So nuts are good. Forget about the fact that many years ago we said nuts are bad. These are one of the healthiest snacks that you can take. Now, coming to, how do we solve the problem of diabetes in India? Now, a lot of people today are talking about keto diet, zero carb diet, and all these extreme diets, They're not sustainable in the first place. You put them on this, for 3 months, they'll be very happy. Oh, I lost 8 kilos in weight. My HbA1c came down, this came down, that came down. And 6 months later, they're worse than where they were. Because you cannot live on that all your life. So we went back to India and said, what is it that we should do? We, in fact, used a mathematician to help us. And we published this very important paper on macronutrient recommendations for remission and prevention of diabetes. And Sheshadri is again led by my daughter, but Sheshadri Srinivasan is a brilliant genius of a mathematician. So with this, we went and did. And after a lot of work, what we found out was all you need to do is to cut the carbohydrate by about 10-12%. That's it. From about 60-70, you bring it to around 50. Enough. What do you make up that with? Protein, of course. You're having very low protein intake, increase that. Fibers low, increase that. Fat can remain the same, but take healthy fats. The nuts contain MUFA, monounsaturated fat, which is very good. Don't take a lot of saturated fat, and some of the polyunsaturated fats are also not good. Just keep the same fat, but take healthy fats. Then you are okay, right? Now, Neeta Faruhi wrote, she's from Cambridge, as you may know, and she wrote a beautiful commentary on that article, which we came in Diabetes Care, and it was a very well quoted article. What she said was she actually put all that into a diagram she made out of our article. And she said, just increase the good reduce the carbohydrate and take whole grain. Protein you increase, and then take the right type of fat. So decrease the carbohydrate, increase the protein, keep the fat the same. And at the individual level, as well as the population level, you will get benefit. It will lead to remission of diabetes. Now, to prove this, you'll have to put 5 years, 10 years people on a diet, which is difficult. In the short term, we are doing these remission experiments to see whether they work or not. A couple of words about physical activity before I stop, because physical activity is also very important. It doesn't mean that just if you cut down your carbs, everything is fine. To get your muscles in shape, because we also have sarcopenia, Indians have less of muscle and more of fat. So to build that muscle, that's the only way we can get more Neeraj Chopras who will get gold medals for us in the Olympic Games. Now we have only one Neeraj Chopra, okay? Because he's in the army, he is okay. But we have to get more. And for that, you need to do physical activity, okay? Now here is data, 2005, where we showed that if you do heavy physical activity, your diabetes prevalence was 5% in Chennai in 2005. If you didn't do activity, it was 17%. So threefold increase. Just as I showed you for rice. Here we have adjusted for rice. And still, that means there's an independent risk factor for getting diabetes. Okay? And remember that when you talk about, this is my own creation, I call it as the FAR principle. FAR stands for, F is for flexibility, which is what is shown here. And then aerobics is walking, jogging, cycling, swimming, whatever, aerobic. This we know about, but we don't know much about flexibility. We don't know about resistance training. Small weights, upper arm, lower legs to improve your muscle strength. This can be done. The resistance training can be done twice a week. Flexibility, do every day, especially if you're getting older. Aerobics, try to do every day, at least 6 days a week, you'll end up doing. Okay. So here are my 8 tips for a healthy life. I'm going to end with this. Avoid unhealthy junk foods, which we already talked about. Reduce your total carbohydrate, use millets wherever possible. Increase plant protein like pulses, legumes, non-starchy vegetables, low glycemic index fruits and nuts. Consume less salt and sugar. Drink enough water and stay hydrated. By the way, I didn't talk about milk because I didn't have time. Dairy is not bad. From the west of India, we always get data saying dairy is the worst. You drink milk, you'll get diabetes. You drink milk, you'll get cancer. If you drink milk, nothing will happen. There's a lot of calcium in it. There's a lot of good in it. But restrict to say 1 glass of milk. That's enough. That gives you so much of benefit. We have evidence, which I didn't show you, cross-section studies, prospective studies, including a recent systematic review which we published, showing that yogurt particularly, but any form of dairy and milk is actually beneficial for diabetes metabolic syndrome. So drink enough water, exercise regularly, yoga is very good, do pranayama and breathing, that's very, very important. Sleep on time and get enough sleep. And if you think all this is very new, Bhagavad Gita already talked about this long ago, or Vedas have talked about all this long. We are only reinventing the whole thing which our ancestors knew. Only thing we are bringing little science into it. That time they just said it. Now we are trying to bring little science and we prove all that they said was correct only. Okay. So the take-home message to you, ladies and gentlemen, is that healthier diets with a lower carbohydrate, along with increased protein and fiber, along with increased physical activity, can help to prevent and control type 2 diabetes in India. And with that, I would like to once again thank the Vice Chancellor, thank Dr. Shweta and all the faculty of your wonderful institution about which I've been reading up a little bit. Continue the great work you're doing. If there's time for questions, I'll be happy to take a few questions. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, for this wonderful session. I'm sure your session made everything clear to us, to everyone. And today we have learned new concept in the management of diabetes, and we have cleared most of the concept behind the white rice and the red rice and the glycemic load and the glycemic calculations. Thank you so much, sir. We know that many of us would like to quench their respective queries regarding diabetes directly from pioneer of diabetology, Dr. V. Mohan, sir. First, I would like to invite all dignitaries if they would like to ask any question directly to sir. Respected VC, sir.
Dr. Mohan, it was excellent, very informative deliberation. In fact, many points which were not very clear are very vivid now. And thank you very much for very powerful presentation. Thank you. In fact, I would request you that we can collaborate with you on some studies on the eating habits, dietary habits of the diabetics. So we have some interest in that area, and you are the pioneer. So we will be in touch with you and would like to do some work on the dietary habits of the diabetics. Because now, as you have mentioned,
sir, and because from North we don't have that much data, Indore can be a very good place. Indore recently is one of my, I fell in love with Indore when I came there. Cleaner city, and you know, 2-3 times I've come there, and every time I come back saying I'm in love with that city. Because it's a cleaner city. Every time you get the cleaner city award, and the civic consciousness that you have, nobody will drop anything, and you know, they clean up everything after a party. I've not seen like that in any part of India. So I would be more than delighted, you know, to collaborate.
Next time we would like to invite you physically, in physical mode.
Sure.
So that we can meet.
We have the big Satya Sai school there, as you know.
Yes.
And since I'm a Central Trust member after Baba, I'm one of the 9 people running it. So actually all the schools come under us. So that's why I get invited there to Bhopal. And
Mr. Sachdeva is there. He is very active.
Tribhuwana Sacheva, yeah. So.
And Mr. Bahiti is also there. He is the chairperson.
And Jambu Bandari. And
yes. That is very nice. So we would like to be in touch with you for some work on this dietary habits of the diabetics. And as we know that our country has already become capital of diabetes.
Correct.
So that is an alarm. So that is a matter of concern. So we need to understand more about it so that it could be disseminated amongst the people, and somehow we could help people in reducing this diabetes.
I would say put one PhD student on the job. And look at what they are taking, how much protein they're taking, how much carbs they're taking. Have they started changing all this millet, you know, the advertisement publicity which we're given? Is it making any a change now? Have people started eating millets? If so, what is the millets available in Indore, for example? We have done the Chennai survey, but what is the millets available there? We would be happy to analyze it for you and then publish it together. And
Sure.
so lots of things can be done.
Yeah, we will be in touch with you for this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Professor Guru Prasad, do you have any question?
Yeah, we had a very wonderful talk, and we also have agricultural science here, and people are concentrating on millets now, particularly. Millets have taken our interest, both in from the point of view of crop production and also from the quality point of view. I found it very interesting when you said that even in millets, the polishing will disturb the contents in the millet, and it will take away the fibers and proteins more into this. One question I had was on millets, that the proteins and the fibers of millets are, more harmful for the digestion. From the digestion point of view, wheat and rice is more easily digestible compared to the millets. What's your take on that?
Absolutely true, because when people switch over to millets, they immediately have bloating and gas trouble and so on, because the digestibility coefficient as well as the biological value of the protein, that also has to be taken into account. But each is different. For example, ragi is different from wheat, wheat is different from rice. And so one, the quantity will be more, one, the quality will be more. In the end, it all kind of evens out. But if we have the original millets, from the country's point of view, it's much easier to adopt to the agriculture as an agriculture, especially you may be able to. So that way. And secondly, in the past, that is what people consumed, whether it was whole grain or whole, unpolished rice. In 1971, there were only 29 rice mills in India. Today, there are more than 2 lakh rice mills in India. So that is will tell you how much polishing is going on, So like this for wheat also, because the traders want to polish because they can keep it longer. If you don't polish, it will get, fungus will form, or it will get rancid and it will get spoiled.
Yeah.
So for them to keep it for 6 months, 1 year, they like the polishing. So everybody like, it looks better, tastes better, it's easier to digest. But what you're losing all the nutrients. That is something people don't realize. So there's a lot of work to be done, and I'm sure only by collaboration we can do that. And since you have deep interest in this, and you come from a different part of the country where we may not even have those kind of foods. For example, we have a food atlas, which is now gone out of print, but you're bringing it again. Very few North Indian items in that. So that can be one thing. 50 items of the foods that you eat there. We can help you to do the nutrient composition of that, and then include it and publish it separately together with you. Include it in the next edition of the atlas. All this is possible. Lots of collaborations are possible.
Yeah, like the Vice Chancellor has said, we will be interested in collaborating from different angles, not only from the medical angle, but also from plant research angle.
That's where your strength will help us, because we will
Sure.
a different angle, and your help can come there.
Yeah, we look forward to collaboration. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Any more questions?
I have one question,
Yes,
Dr.
yes,
Morgan.
yes, Dr.
You have glucometer for measuring the glucose level. Is there any other instrument which can measure the glycemic index?
Glycemic cannot be measured by an equipment. What you have to do is you have to feed the person and look at the rise in the sugar. Now, let's say you have done you can do it with the glucometer also. You can do it with the lab also. Actually, we use a HemoQ, which is almost like a glucometer only. And that's a preferred one which FAO and WHO recommends for doing this study. So you do a fasting sample, say 1 or 2 fasting samples to get a meal. Then you give them the food. And then at 20 minutes, 30 minutes, 60 minutes, 90 minutes, 120 minutes, you see the rise in the glucose. And the maximum rise in the glucose from the starting point is the glycemic index of that particular food. If you give glucose 100 is taken as the maximum. So anything lower than 100 is good. So we get 80, it's not as bad as glucose. You get 60, it is even better. We get 50, it is even better. If you take if you take apple, it will be only 30 or 28 or 30 or something. Some of the other items are very low. So you can, even a person with diabetes can take it, your sugar level will not go up. Otherwise, the more you take of the high glycemic index one, the glycemic load and index, the difference is the amount that you take. So you can take a very high glycemic index food, but if you take a small quantity of it, it's not going to increase your sugar because you ate very little. Whereas you can take a slightly lower glycemic index, but you take so much of it, your glycemic load goes up and then it goes. That is why in the glycemic load in Chennai, I showed you rice increasing. One is rice has a higher glycemic. The amount of rice they eat, the mountain of rice they eat. So naturally their glycemic load goes up.
Now my question is, since we have an instrument to immediately probe our sugar level with a glycometer, why can't we, because when you go to any doctor, you don't take this food, it has got high glycemic index, you don't take this. Why not a common man? He himself can find out with the instrument, like just plug in inside.
You don't need an instrument. See, you look at the published value of the glycemic index of the foods, and you say which are the ones which have high glycemic index, which are the ones have lower glycemic index. You take the lower glycemic index one. You don't have to measure it to see how it is happening. Of course, today, with this continuous glucose monitoring which people are wearing, every meal they test, they eat something today in the morning, let's say afternoon, they ate rice. They say how much is it? Okay, tomorrow let me eat chapati, let me see what happens. Then they eat chapati, oh, it's not going up that much. So my body is tolerating chapati better than rice. Next day they take ragi. Hey, it's not going up at all. So ragi is the one which is good for me. They're doing it. Already patients are doing it. All you have to do is to wear that continuous glucose monitoring. And I can actually show it to you. It's only a small thing like this, which you wear it on your arm like that. And this is all that is needed. Then you have a reader. With this reader, you just take it near your hand where the thing is there. It will immediately tell you the glucose. And without taking any blood. So any number of times you can test it. 5 minutes later, 10 minutes later, half an hour later, 1 hour later. Without drawing any blood, you can test with this. So with these kind of instruments, it's very easy to find out what you should. Same thing with exercise. You do a lot of exercise, see whether it's going down. Then you do a little less exercise, and you say, oh, so much is going down. Everything is possible today with these wearable devices. It's very easy nowadays.
Mainly the common people, what they will tell is, suppose we give them some food or something, they will tell whether it will increase my diabetes because I'm a diabetic. So that question will come. For that, whether there are, because we cannot give them all the published results. This has got high glycemic index, this has got low, or you take it and find out. Whether there is any other
make
method.
It and find out, and certain things they're so sweet when you put a little bit in your mouth itself is intensely sweet. It's going to increase your sugar. So I think through common sense we can do it.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Dr. Shweta, take some questions from question answer session.
Okay, sir. So there is one question, the role of intermittent fasting in diabetes reversal.
Yesterday I had a session, I think about 8 questions are only on intermittent fasting. So intermittent fasting is not a bad thing, because we as human beings today, we are overeating. Even when you're not hungry, now it's 12:45, at 1:30 I'll say, it's my lunchtime and I have to eat. Whether I'm hungry or not, 1:30 is lunchtime, so I have to go and eat. That was not how human beings lived. They ran after some animal, caught it, and then killed it, and then they ate it. Then for 2 days, they may not catch anything. Then they won't. That's how our ancestors lived. In fact, agriculture itself came only much later. It was only on animals only that people lived. Okay. Today, breakfast, lunch, dinner, this, that, we want. Even if you're not hungry, you keep on eating. That has spoiled our entire metabolism. In that sense, intermittent fasting is very good. If you give some gap, the digestive juices are all coming in, and it's very good for you. Now, the claims made on intermittent fasting are too many. Oh, that will cure diabetes, that will cure this, that will cure obesity, that will cure this, that will cure this. All depends on your calories. After that intermittent fasting, what do you eat when you break your fast? Okay, you've taken at 8 o'clock in the morning. Now up to 8 o'clock at night, you're not going to eat. Okay. What are you going to eat at 8 o'clock at night? You have such a big meal at 8 o'clock. What is the point in doing it? You're eating more than your lunch and dinner and tea and everything you have added in the dinner. How is it going to help you to lose weight? So recent studies have shown, unless there is caloric restriction, the intermittent fasting doesn't help. Okay. So the good old days, what we used to say, eat small, frequent feeds. Eat small breakfast, small lunch, small tea, and small dinner. That is probably good for a person with diabetes because you're taking insulin, you're taking tablets, you're taking something. So having a 12-hour fast, you may get a hypoglycemia if you do that. But if you are somebody who likes that, no, if I skip my lunch, I feel very good. And then later on, I'll have a light dinner and then I'll sleep off. I'm good. Do it. Nobody is stopping you from doing it. Please do it and good. But don't claim too much from intermittent fasting. It's become a fad, and everything becomes a fad as far as every person has got his own diet or her own diet which they're promoting. That becomes a commercial thing and it's not going to help person. You be sensible about what you're eating. See that you get a lot of vegetables. The Thali principle, that is the best for teaching nutrition. Half the plate with green, leafy, non-starchy vegetables. Every lunch and dinner, you should have that. Quarter of the plate, you have to reserve for protein. If you're a non-vegetarian, take your non-vegetarian. Doesn't matter, fish or chicken, not meat, but take fish or chicken or egg. That's fine. If you're a vegetarian, then you must look for your protein. Bengal gram, green gram, black gram, this, that, all that you'll have to look for. Then that last part of the plate, some carbs to give you the energy. It can be chapati, it can be rice, but take small quantities of it. That is enough. Don't eliminate that also and make it a zero carb diet. It will not work. It's not sustainable in the long run. If you make it balanced like this, now whether you want to do intermittent fasting or don't want to do intermittent fasting is left to you. There's no one size fits all. There are some people who they miss their breakfast or lunch, they feel so depressed, that they've missed one big thing, like I missed my Nobel Prize, like that. They missed their lunch. So you don't do intermittent fasting, not for you at all. But there are others who feel guilty if they eat. If I skip the meal, I feel very happy, I missed my, okay, please do it, So human being, no two human beings are the same. You will have to do what is sensible. End of the day, your calories should come down. End of the day, don't overeat. Don't put on weight. Maintain your weight. I'm happy to tell you that for the last 50 years, my weight has not changed. What it was when it's in college, I have now. I've not done intermittent fasting. I've not done keto diet. I've not done anything of the type. I've managed to maintain weight, just being sensible and doing little exercise every day. I've managed to keep it. So I don't see the need for something drastic. I always tell people, unless you're going to do it for 1 year, 5 years, 10 years, don't start something which is just for 2-3 months. It's not going to help you. What are you going to do after 2-3 months?
So there are numbers of questions. I think because of the shortage of time, I think I should compile it in a mail and send it to you for getting an answer in precision, because we are not able to take all questions here in the session because we have made a promise that we make you free before 1. So I just would like to request to my colleague, my companion, Dr. Dipali Saxena, Assistant Professor, Sri Vaishnav Institute of Home Science, Food and Nutrition, for the vote of thanks. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am. Good afternoon to chief guests, presenting decrees, HOIs, HODs, coordinators, faculty members, dear participated students. A very happy National Nutrition Month to one and all. Thank you. Thank you, such a prayer that cannot be seen or touched. It must be felt by heart. I feel honored and privileged to get the opportunity to propose a vote of thanks on this special occasion. I express my profound gratitude to our chief guest, respected Dr. V. Mohan, Confederate Padma Shri and Indian diabetologist and chief of diabetology at Dr. Mohan Diabetes Specialist Center, Chennai, who despite his numerous and rather tight schedule has found time to grace this occasion. Sir, your inspiring message and invaluable words have truly set the tone of the day. We will ever remain grateful to you, and we thank you for being with us today. Thank you, sir. Thank you for your esteemed presence. Our prudent advisor, meticulous guide, faithful priest, and above all, the considerate spearhead. I thank Dr. Upinder Dhar, Honorable Vice Chancellor, Sir, Sri Vaishnav Vidyapith Vishwavidyalaya, Indore, for extending his ever-growing dynamic leadership to all of us. This program would not be the resounding success without your guidance, sir. I express my gratitude to Dr. Santosh Dhar, Rector, Dean, Faculty of Doctoral Studies and Research, Shri Vaishnav Vidyapith Vishwavidyalaya, Indore, for guidance us in achieving new milestones. I am indeed thankful to Dr. Uttam Sharma, Coordinator, Shri Vaishnav Institute of Home Science. Sir, you have been a constant support and give us a lot of encouragement throughout our preparation and suggested valuable additions in the planning of the program. Thank you, sir. My sincere thanks to Mr. Arvind Singh, Joint Registrar, Shri Vaishnav Vidyapith Vishwavidyalaya, and also to all the directors, HOIs, HODs, coordinators, faculty members, and all the accommodations of Shri Vaishnav Vidyapith Vishwavidyalaya. We appreciate all your efforts for joining the event. My special thanks to Dr. Shukla for the contribution, as an event of this dimension cannot happen overnight. The wheels start rolling months in advance. I have been fortunate enough to be backed by a responsible colleague, Dr. Shweta Keswani, Assistant Professor, Shri Vaishnav Institute of Home Science. I express my heartfelt thanks to Mrs. Manisha Trivedi, Mrs. Purva Tiwari, Shrikant sir, Sadav sir, Saroge sir, Parvesh sir, and all the academic and administrative office staff for extending their relentless support wherever required. At last but not the least, I thank to all the registered participants. मैं पूरे श्री वैष्णव विद्यापीठ विश्वविद्यालय की तरफ से आप सभी को राष्ट्रीय पोषण माह की शुभकामनाएं देती हूँ. Thank you once again.
Thank you so much, ma'am. As we have about to reach the last minute of this inaugural session of National Nutrition Month 2023, let's make promise to ourselves. We not only inculcate good and healthy practices into ourselves, but also start following them. And we will make our planet a better place of our health. I would like to request all the participants, the feedback for the webinar that has been forwarded in the chat box, kindly fill it as it is mandatory for getting a webinar certificate, because we have learned so many things from Dr. V. Mohan sir. And also I would like to request, kindly give us a time of 15 days for the distribution of certificates. Now, I would like to request all the dignitaries present, please rise for the national anthem. I request the technical team to play national anthem.
जन गण मन अधिनायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता पंजाब सिंध गुजरात मराठा द्राविड़ उत्कल बंगा विंध्य हिमाचल यमुना गंगा उच्चल जलधि तरंगा तव शुभ नामे जागे तव शुभ आशीष मांगे गाहे तव जय गाथा जन गण मंगलदायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता जय हे जय हे जय हे जय 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 हे
भारत माता की जय. भारत माता की जय. Thank you all for giving your valuable time and especially to Dr. V. Mohan, who agree on my approaches, our institute approaches on mail itself. With the best wishes, we are concluding this session now. Have a good day, every day ahead. Thank you all.
Thank you. God
Thank
bless
you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Mohan. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
God bless you. Sir.
Thank you, Dr. Morgan, and best wishes for your daughter, Anjana.
Thank you.
Sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Saurabh sir. Mute कर दीजिए.